welcome to the Authority File. I'm Mark Derks, the Digital Media Specialist at Choice. This week, we're changing things up a bit. I'm sitting in for Bill Mickey because, well, he wasn't around when I recorded this week's conversations. You see, last week we took the Authority File on the road to the Charleston Conference, just like we did at the ACRL conference in April. A hint for you? If you haven't listened to those conversations, add them to your playlist. They're episodes 80 to 84 and 90 and 91. So, this week, instead of our usual studied conversation on academic library themes, we bring you two interviews. One today, and one likely on Thursday, but we'll see, it might slip to Friday. They're from a pair of enterprising librarians with a whole lot of pluck. They sat down with me on the show floor to tell me about their successes and aspirations, and just so that it's perfectly clear, these interviews were totally extemporaneous. We put up a sign inviting passersby to offer up a success story or a bit of their expertise, and these two ladies jumped right in. All right, so I think that's enough background for folks out there. Here is the first of our two mini episodes featuring Mary Ellen Sloane, Professor, User Services at the James E. Walker Library at Middle Tennessee State University. She and I discussed a workshop she provides to graduate students on data management. All right, this is Mark Derks, and I am here with my special guest, Mary Ellen Sloane, and she's going to talk about a workshop that she's putting together or has put together. Which is it?
I have put it together. I have been conducting this workshop for graduate students for a couple of years.
Okay.
And I have looked into a lot of resources on what students need to know about data management and visualization, and I've adapted that into a workshop that's part of a workshop series for graduate students at our university.
Cool. Could you tell us more about it? So not just what it is, but how did you put it together, and what are the results that you're seeing from it?
Well, I put it together by just really trying to understand what the needs are at the graduate level at our university and what students need to know about data management and visualization as it pertains to their use of other scholars' data and then their management of their own data.
Okay, great. And so could you tell us a little more about the workshop itself? What's it like?
Well, I only have an hour in the workshop, so I really have to I'll cover a lot in that hour and give a big picture overview, but I really try to tie it into what the students need to know for their particular research areas. So I do build in some opportunity for them to reflect on how the content that I'm presenting relates to their own research needs. But primarily, students don't really understand what data management is, and I really emphasize that it's important for them to consider all the documentation related to their research and their studies as part of their data management. For instance, any kind of human subjects protection permissions, any kind of other applications that they've made to do their research, and of course, the data itself. And we talk a lot about file management, about having backups. So it's really not just about the data, but it's about good practices throughout their research, the research life cycle that they're engaging in. And then we also talk a lot about ethics. And luckily for me, or unluckily for me, there are a lot of good examples of research that's been found to have been falsified. And so I'm able to point out the real need for them to understand the best practices in their subject and point them to some of those resources that they can then delve into further. But I really look at the big picture. And then the most important thing, I think, for me is to get across to students the need for them to constantly learn new software, to learn new data management software, to learn new visualization software. So I also like to be able to point them to some of the resources that we have in the library, such as LinkedIn Learning and O'Reilly and some of the other book collections we have that support their ability to acquire new skills that help them to manage their data and create visualizations for their research output.
Cool. That sounds awesome. That's great.
It's a lot of fun, yeah. So my plan tomorrow is, it's actually not a presentation per se. I've created little handouts with subjects,
Okay.
subject areas, topic areas for each participant. So everybody's going to be assigned a topic.
Cool.
And then I'm going to boil my 1 hour workshop down into 6 minutes and
Whoa.
just run through it. But all the slides, all the material is going to be there for them to take it and adapt it for their own purposes.
Wow, that's great. So
Yeah.
that they can take it and build their own workshops at their universities. That's great.
One thing I found to be effective is I like to build in some kind of storytelling to what I'm doing. I think that storytelling is a very effective teaching strategy. Also, you have to give people the opportunity to interact and to reflect. So I'm trying to work on some of those pedagogical tools as well in what I do. But there's a really great book that illustrates the really important need for data science, and it's by an author named Briney, and it's called Data Management for Researchers. And she starts off the book by saying that you can look at the grainy footage of Neil Armstrong landing on the moon, but you can't see the original because the original tape was taped over at some point. They
Wow.
didn't retain it if you can believe, they did not retain it. And so it points to the need for all researchers to take good care and have a good strategy for how their retention practices and how they're managing their data. And then I think in this day and age, in this scholarly ecosystem, they have to consider the reuse of their data by others and plan for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things when we've talked about data management in the past that has come up is the way in which tools are evolving and changing, and maybe as a researcher has a specific problem that they need to address, and so they build a tool for it, and that tool isn't necessarily available to other researchers. Another thing that sort of has come up is, as you're talking about reuse of that data, how important is it to make sure that that data is not just, or is it okay if this is the case, to make sure that data is not just like stuck in a thumb drive or something, in somebody's desk and never sees the light of day again?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the data management is a really evolving practice, and I think that it's a great opportunity for libraries to interact with research and scholarly communities to say, hey, we have a solution to this problem. We've actually, we are information scientists, and we can help you to evolve into this new scholarly ecosystem. But it's going to take a lot of proactivity on the part of librarians, and researchers need to understand that this is going to have to be a part of the research process.
Okay. And I guess I've really just got one more question to wrap it up. And so what have been the results of your workshop that you've seen? How have you seen it impact these graduate students and their data practices and those sorts of things? What have you seen?
Well, I've seen more interest from the graduate studies, from the Office of Research, from some faculty who understand that they don't yet know that there's help there, and that I'm available to help, and the library is working to develop support structures on campus. Of course, like a lot of universities and libraries, we're growing and we're developing in this area. So it's not like we have everything in place now, but we want to engage and talk about what we can do together.
All right, great. Well, thank you for taking a few minutes to talk with us.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
You just heard from Mary Ellen Sloane of Middle Tennessee State University. If you enjoyed the episode and you're thinking about attending the ALA annual conference in Chicago this June, look out for us at the Choice booth, and maybe we'll record your success story too. If you're looking for something more immediate you can do, drop me a line. I'm at mderks@ala-choice.org. If that's too much to ask, rate and review us on your podcatcher of choice. Tell someone you think might be interested in the episode, or send warm vibes our way. Whatever you can do, we appreciate it. That's all for this episode. Thanks for listening.